Hello and welcome. If you search the internet, you will find many stories about famed pilot Captain Eric Winkle Brown. Today, I want to illustrate his courage and skill by highlighting some of his most notable achievements. Eric was born in Scotland in 1919 and became a Royal Navy officer and test pilot. His world records are impressive. He flew 487 types of aircraft and he holds the record for the most aircraft carrier takeoffs, 2,407, and landings, 2,271. He was the first to land a twin-engine aircraft on an aircraft carrier, as well as an aircraft with a tricycle undercarriage, a jet aircraft, and a rotary wing aircraft. Back in 1936, Brown's father had taken him to see the Olympics being held in Berlin. The Browns were invited to join social gatherings by members of the newly disclosed Luftwaffe. At one of these meetings, Ernst Udet, a former World War I fighter ace, was fascinated to make the acquaintance of Brown Sr., who was a former RFC pilot, and he offered to take his son Eric up flying with him. Eric recalled, "You talk about aerobatics, we did everything, I think, and I was hanging onto my tummy. So when we landed, he gave me the fright of my life because we approached upside down and then he rolled out just in time to land." Udet said to me, "You'll make a fine fighter pilot. Do me two favours. Learn to speak German fluently and learn to fly." Eric did both. Later, Eric Brown had been selected to take part in an exchange program in Germany. Whilst there, one morning in September 1939, he was woken up with a loud knocking on his door. A woman announced that our countries are now at war. Soon after, Brown was arrested by the SS. However, after 3 days incarceration, they merely escorted Brown in his MG Magnet sports car to the Swiss border, saying they were allowing him to keep the car because they had no spares for it. Back in the UK, Brown joined the Fleet Air Arm and saw action before being posted to the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough, where his experience in deck landings was sought. During World War II, he flew many types of captured German, Italian and Japanese aircraft, including new jet and rocket aircraft. By the close of 1943, he had performed around 1,500 deck landings on 22 different carriers. While at Farnborough as Chief Naval Test Pilot, Brown was involved in the deck landing trials of the de Havilland Sea Mosquito, the heaviest aircraft yet chosen to be flown from a British carrier. Brown landed one for the first time on the 25th of March 1944. This was the first landing on a carrier by a twin-engine aircraft. The approach speed of a Mosquito is 125 miles per hour, stalling at 110 miles per hour, yet the arrestor gear could fail above 83 miles per hour. Remember, this was a heavy aircraft. If either of the two engines failed, he would be killed as the dead engine's non-feathering propeller's drag would invert him within 2 seconds. Many predicted the arrestor gear would be ripped off this wooden aircraft. It wasn't. That man had courage. In the summer of 1944, the RAE was the leading authority on high-speed flight, and Brown became involved in this sort of testing. This involved diving an aircraft, usually a Supermarine Spitfire, reaching speeds at the high subsonic region of Mach 0.92. This work led to the request by the US Air Force for help. They were having trouble control issues in their fighters when diving after the enemy at high speed. This is the compressibility issue. Eric Brown's testing proved the P-51B Mustang to be favoured to escort bombers as they could match the FW-190 in the dive. With the end of the European war in sight, the RAE prepared itself to acquire German aeronautical technology and aircraft before these fell into Russian hands. Because he spoke German, Brown was made the commanding officer of Operation Enemy Flight. He flew into northern Germany to find any Arado AR-234 jet bombers. He found an operational Luftwaffe base at Grove in northern Germany, and luckily for him, the commanding officer surrendered and Brown took charge of the airfield and its staff of 2,000 men until Allied forces arrived the next day. What guts! Brown joined an elite group of pilots who test flew captured German and Italian aircraft. That experience qualified Brown one of the few men to compare both Allied and Axis aeroplanes. The Aerodynamics Flight, assisted by a cooperative German pilot, later ferried 12 AR-234s across the North Sea to Farnborough. The venture was not without risk, as before their capture, the Germans had destroyed all of the engine logbooks for the aircraft, leaving Brown and his colleagues no idea of the expected engine hours remaining. Because of the scarcity of the special high-temperature alloys for use in their construction, the Junkers Jumo 004 engines had a life of only 25 hours. It was not known whether the engines were brand new or just about to expire. He flight tested 53 German aircraft, including the Me-163 Comet rocket fighter. He was the only Allied pilot to flight test this rocket plane deemed to be suicidal. The fuel was a dangerous methanol-hydrazine combination with an oxidizer of hydrogen peroxide, which formed a violent hypergolic reaction. He said, "I remember watching the ground crew very carefully before takeoff, wondering if they thought they were waving goodbye to me forever or whether they thought this thing was going to return." In 1949, he replicated a flight in a de Havilland DH-108 which had killed Geoffrey de Havilland. In a high-speed dive, the aircraft suffered from a high G-pitch oscillation. The aircraft slammed from +4 to -3 G 3 times each second. He was thrown about the cockpit, but survived as he was a short man and so not thrown against the canopy. Geoffrey was not, and so broke his neck. Such are the risks taken by test pilots. Asked what were his favourite aircraft to fly, Eric said, "My favourite in the piston engine era is the de Havilland Hornet. I always described it as like flying a Ferrari in the sky." On the jet side, I was a great admirer of the F-86 Sabre Model E, which had the flying tail, and this gave me what I call the perfect harmony of control. If a pilot has this perfect harmony control, you feel you're part of the aeroplane and you're bonded with it really. He has flown almost every category of Royal Navy and Royal Air Force aircraft, be they gliders, fighters, bombers, airliners, amphibian, flying boat and helicopter. To see the aircraft that Eric Brown flew, search List of aircraft flown by Eric Winkle Brown on Wikipedia. I don't think we will see the likes of an Eric Brown ever again. Thank you for watching and stay safe.